Galatians 4, two Jerusalems living side by side. Tom's 5 minutes, one puzzle piece a day until the whole Bible comes into view. Galatians 4 is one of the clearest windows into the first century transition from the Old Covenant to the New. Paul is not merely teaching law versus grace. He is describing two covenant worlds existing side by side during his own generation. 1. Why did Paul write Galatians? The Galatians were being pressured to return to the law of Moses. Tell me, ye that desire to be under the law, do ye not hear the law? Galatians 4:21. Paul will use the law itself to show why believers should not return to it. 2. Abraham had 2 sons. Abraham had 2 sons, the one by a bondmaid, the other by a free woman. Galatians 4:22. Ishmael was born according to the flesh. Isaac was born according to promise. At first, this appears to be a lesson from Genesis, but Paul is about to reveal a deeper meaning. 3. These things are an allegory. Which things are an allegory? For these are the 2 covenants. Galatians 4:24. Paul does not deny the historical events. Instead, he shows that Abraham's family story foreshadowed 2 covenant systems. The conflict between Ishmael and Isaac pictured a much greater covenant conflict. 4. Hagar represented Mount Sinai. Paul writes, "For this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia." Galatians 4:25. Then he makes a remarkable statement, "And answereth to Jerusalem which now is, and is in bondage with her children." Galatians 4:25. Notice the words, Jerusalem which now is. The temple was still standing. The priesthood was still functioning. Sacrifices were still being offered. Yet Paul says this Jerusalem corresponded to Hagar and Sinai. The city representing the Old Covenant was still present. 5. The Jerusalem above already existed. Paul immediately contrasts it. But Jerusalem which is above is free, which is the mother of us all. Galatians 4:26. Notice the present tense. The Jerusalem above already existed. Believers already belonged to it. Yet there was still an already but not yet element. The heavenly Jerusalem was already their mother and source of citizenship, but the inheritance was not yet fully manifested because the Old Covenant city still stood. A few years later, John would see, "And first John saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven." Revelation 21:2. The city was already above in Paul's day, ready to descend when the Old Covenant order finally passed away. 6. The first century believers lived between 2 worlds. This made their generation unique. They could see the temple. They could see the sacrifices. They could see the Old Covenant system. Yet Paul says their true citizenship belonged to another city. 2 covenant worlds existed simultaneously. 7. Isaac and Ishmael become a picture of the age. Paul continues, "But as then he that was born after the flesh persecuted him that was born after the Spirit, even so it is now." Galatians 4:29. Notice, even so it is now. The Genesis story was repeating itself in Paul's generation. Ancient history had become present reality. 8. Cast out the bondwoman. Paul reaches his conclusion. Cast out the bondwoman and her son. Galatians 4:30. Why? For the son of the bondwoman shall not be heir with the son of the free woman. The inheritance belonged to the promised seed. The old covenant could not remain as a co-heir with the new. 9. The message to the Galatians. Paul's argument is simple. Why return to Sinai when you already belong to the Jerusalem above? Why return to bondage when Christ has brought freedom? Why return to shadows when the reality has arrived? 10. The big picture. Galatians 4 is a snapshot of the covenant transition of the first century. Paul describes two Jerusalems existing at the same time. One was earthly, visible, and in bondage. The other was heavenly, invisible, and free. The Jerusalem above already existed. The Jerusalem below still stood. The inheritance was near, but the transition was not yet complete. So then, brethren, we are not children of the bondwoman, but of the free. Galatians 4:31. Conclusion. Galatians 4 is not merely about law and grace. It is a snapshot of two covenant worlds existing side by side in the first century. The Jerusalem below was still standing. The Jerusalem above already existed. The inheritance was near, but the transition was not yet complete. Paul's message was simple. Do not go back to Sinai when God has already brought you to the Jerusalem above. Thank you for joining Tom's 5 Minutes. Please subscribe on YouTube, follow on Facebook, and share with your Bible study group. Questions or comments? Leave them below.